Thanks, Kathy, and welcome back, everybody, to the final session. So we've covered quite a lot, and you should be in the midst of your Safe System assessment. Some of you have actually submitted your Safe System assessment and they've been marked. Remember, you do have the opportunity to resubmit that if you are not happy with your mark, or you want to keep working on it to get it better, and you do require that 80% average across your quizzes and assignments to get the certificate of successful completion of this course. So have a look at the feedback and feel free to resubmit if you want. But some good Safe System assessments coming in. Some people have clearly got their head around this Safe System assessment and all of its nuances. Generally, looking at them all, it's really refreshing to see the I suppose level of existing knowledge on Safe System and the Safe System philosophy and Safe System infrastructure, and it's all really just about getting it into that right Safe System assessment format, so it's consistent across different jurisdictions across New Zealand and people doing it. So that's good, and others probably have maybe visited their site or had a look at things and ticking away at it. So I thought we'd start off by giving the opportunity for anybody to ask questions, seek clarification, maybe point out something interesting that they've found in the assessment process, or areas that they're a bit uncomfortable with even. And we'd like to start with a little bit of an open platform for sharing that. And of course, you can do that by just popping your hand up and Kathy will unmute you and you can talk. That's probably the preferred way to do it for now, but you could of course put that into the chat or the Q&A. So does anybody want to pop their hand up and tell us something of interest, or ask a question, heed a warning to others maybe about a little trick that you've discovered in there with maybe the exposure score or the likelihood score or the severity score? I'll give it a second to see if anybody wants to go down that track. I'm not seeing any hands going up at the moment. Well, what we're going to be doing this session is to run through more of the policy related aspects to Safe System assessment. And New Zealand is very much going through shaping out how Safe System assessments fit into different elements. It's certainly in your road safety strategy, as we put in talked about in module 1, and how it plays out on the ground with projects and different programs and those sorts of things is kind of what I want to talk about today. And that will be requiring a bit of input from the group, and certainly a knowledgeable group in terms of the work you're currently undertaking and your history in sort of public policy and transport policy and the like. So we'll have a good discussion about that. I'm going to use some examples and just show you what some other jurisdictions are doing, and that's just to gather ideas as you go, but not to say that this is what I believe New Zealand should be doing, but something for your consideration as you tick things along. Yeah, so we're going to cover that, and then the other thing we're going to cover is a variety of sort of road stereotype scenarios and what sort of factors and features might align highly with Safe System principles. And that's really because you've undertaken a Safe System assessment on one bit of the road network, one intersection or one little length in a certain stereotypical environment, you know, being an urban area or a rural area or the like. Yeah, the Safe System assessment framework, as we've mentioned, is very versatile, and you should be able to do it on any part of the road network or any area that you decide, or a program or the like. So we want to just touch on a few of these other areas just to make sure that if you go out and do an urban motorway Safe System assessment, that you've got a few ideas in there for some recommendations and things that are working or not working. So I'll be getting your input as we go through that, and we do have quite a bit of time in this session packed in for questions, answers, going off and talking about whatever you want to talk about. So if we don't use that all, we may finish early, but I do hope that we get some rich discussion happening as we go. Okay, so doesn't look like anybody's jumped in there, Kathy, at this stage, but please, yeah, feel free to pop your hand up or type something in and we'll get to it. Any administrative things to cover off while I share my slides, Kathy?
Thanks, Ken. Just if you haven't completed any of your quizzes in Schoology, do jump in and do that. There will be another one at the end of today's session, so I'll make that one live. And yeah, just make sure you've finished everything. You can have until next Monday to submit your Safe System Assessment report. Ken will mark them soon after that, and you'll get your certificates in the following week.
Good, thank you. And yeah, so we'll email you the certificate first, and then you'll get your hard copy with any prizes, which will follow sometime after, depending on how quick the postal service works. Okay, so this module really, as I mentioned, is talking about that process and wrapping everything up. We want to talk a little bit about the benefits of a safe system assessment, and I'll show you some research that was done in terms of evaluation of safe system assessments, or some of them. So look how a safe system assessment fits within that life cycle of an infrastructure project, and the difference between safe system assessments and road safety audits, which we've talked a little bit about. But I want to use this diagram, and a couple of you have probably seen this, because I have used this before in New Zealand as safe system assessments were just sort of starting out. But this was 35 safe system assessments. They weren't the first 35, but they were early on, and they were on major transport infrastructure projects. So we're talking big duplication jobs, sort of many hundreds of millions of dollars, major urban duplication, big sort of 20-kilometre town bypasses, and those sorts of projects. So really massive stuff. And what the evaluation did, or the evaluation of the effectiveness of these safe system assessment, was to take all of those and then use a crash prediction model and look at how many fatal serious injuries would we predict in these roads in a 20-year period. So the existing roads, if no projects, no alterations were done, the original design, which was the one that was handed over to be safe system assessed, and then the high safe system alignment one from the safe system assessment, so what the safe system assessors were recommending, with some acknowledgement of the context of the project. So there was some acknowledgement of what would generally be pushing boundaries, but still possible. Obviously, a speed limit reduction to 40 kilometers per hour on a major town bypass or something like that is not within the context of what those projects were doing. So that sort of stuff, which wasn't actually in any of the safe system assessments, but wouldn't have been factored into their high safe system alignment scenario. And then what was finally adopted by the project team, which went into the endorsed scope of the project and funded and constructed, or some of these are still actually being constructed. They're pretty massive projects. But so I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this graph and unpack what it's actually telling us, because it's quite quite interesting here. So let's have a look at this no project scenario, and we see here that on these 35 stretches of road around Victoria, In a 20-year period, that the crash prediction model was basically saying that we're going to see about 8,000 serious injuries and about 350 odd fatalities if nothing was to happen, taking into account growth and the like. The designs that were produced out of the sort of big design houses, you know, they're just churning out these designs. So, you know, just churning through them. What came through was this. Down to 6,700 serious injuries, 286 fatalities. So the first thing you, I suppose, can say from this is that to that is the safety improvement. So interestingly enough, one of the pushback things we get a lot is say, oh yeah, no, we do safe system. Yep, we absolutely do safe system. What they're actually saying is that we do, you know, we improve road safety and we follow the standards and guidelines and you know, we improve road safety, and you know, equating that to safe system or high alignment with safe system principles. And that's true. I mean, road safety will improve by the implementation of these projects. So that's not argument. The thing is that we can do a whole lot better with what we've got in our existing toolkit. If you go then to the high safe system alignment one, what we see is this drop down to 3,900 serious injuries, 167 fatalities. So that is really the difference between what is coming out of the big design houses following most of the standards and guidelines of the time. They've been updated a little bit since, and what we've got in our toolkit that we know we can do. Then what was actually adopted by the project team, this one, goes up a bit, and we see it goes to 5,300 and 227 in the prediction. Now this, I would say this is the current political climate, the acceptance, the willingness to change, cost implications potentially, and reasons why people are pushing back on some of these proposed treatments. The difference between here and here is the immediate value of a safe system assessment. I mean, this was just assessing that design and giving recommendations, and then they were altered and accepted and included in the project. Immediate benefit. So there's some really interesting, I suppose, aspects to this, and I think others might want to chime in and on their perspective of it. It's the first thing that I look at and I say, hang on a second, what's going on here? How come we're giving the best that we know in the context of these road environments, and we're still getting that huge amount of serious injury and fatality associated with these bits of road, even with our sort of highest safe system alignment? And that really is the stuff that we can't immediately fix with infrastructure, that we know how to do it. So this is things like you know, very extreme driving behaviour. This is motorcycle crashes. They're quite a big part of what we're talking about. Those two, you know, very high end speeding, where your infrastructure is not able to cater for these sort of things, evading police and those sorts of crash challenges. So what we're going to have to do is keep working on other elements of the system to help us address these, and also innovation and looking at ways we can innovate with infrastructure, find new things, find new ways to alter the infrastructure. So that's one real standout for me. This one, I think there's a lot of sort of cultural things we need to work on, even in our own backyard, in our industry, and things that people are willing to accept, and innovative practices, new things, changes to standards and guidelines to make it sort of more acceptable in people's mind, and continue to work on that. Cost certainly was an element in some of these, not all of them. In terms of, they said, well, we'd like to do that, we can't afford it. Maybe grade separating some of the interchanges that were proposed. But certainly there are a lot of things that can be done in that space. There were a number of the safe system assessments that actually, after accepting what was put forward, would cost less. And those were mainly the big town bypasses, because the whole cross section back when these were done, which is maybe 4 years ago or something, but still that very much that really huge road reserve, big separated carriageways, big median in the middle, buy all the land, clear all the trees, have massive clear zones was the way that this was operating. And certainly the safe system assessment showed a much smaller cross-sectional envelope that had continuous barrier systems, which in a number of these cases would be a much cheaper solution. So that was interesting. So that one we're going to have to continue to work on and keep pushing our industry, because it's stuff that we know about now and we can do, and we may need to lobby other ways to make that happen.
Ken, can I just jump in with some clarification questions, please?
Definitely.
Thank you. So just whether it's crashes or people injured or killed. So the 227 in the last column adopted by the project, are they fatalities or are they crashes?
So they're crashes. I'll be able to forward the actual report, but my understanding was they were crashes. So we know, well, most of these projects is sort of a 1.1 maybe in terms of crashes to people, something around that. So yes, the actual people results may be slightly higher than that, but I think this is giving a generally a fair indication of what we're up against.
Thank you. How did you derive the numbers of deaths and serious injuries?
Yeah, so we did not. So this was done by Blair Turner when he was at ARB, and I think a lot of you will know Blair Turner, a New Zealander originally. So Blair used basically a modified ANRAM IRAP sort of methodology based on the risk score and the predicted FSIs using those characteristics and accounting for growth as well in that. And so like the town bypass, for example, well, it was to say no project was basically, okay, all the freight and the cars and everything continue to run through the town as they currently are, and it's going to go up by this amount. And we've used the crash prediction model to say that the infrastructure characteristics plus the crash history combined together to give us a predicted fatal serious injury over X number of years as things go up. So that was the methodology that was used to spit those out, and there is an evaluation report available with this, and I'm just thinking whether it ever actually became public, but I know it was certainly sent to NZTA, so would be happy to share it. So it was originally sent to Colin, Brodie, and Fabian, I think. So but happy to share that with anybody who's got an interest in it.
Great, thank you. And I guess there's a question here or a realisation that safe system assessment itself is not sufficient to get us to zero.
That's right, yeah. I mean, safe system assessments are one tool in our toolkit to keep pushing us further and further. But no, I mean, just going about a safe system assessment isn't going to get us there. We need cultural change. We need innovation. We need pushes in spheres well outside of a safe system assessment in terms of vehicle regulations, enforcement, behavioural change initiatives. You know, it's a holistic system that needs working on, and at least these safe system assessments were focused very much on the infrastructure side of things. Yes, they had some ideas in there about other elements of the system in that local area, but you know, major national reforms in terms of vehicle safety features, design rules, things associated with, you know, big enforcement initiatives, major statewide speed management campaigns, and the like are not really included in these individual project assessments. So, yeah, I suppose see it for what it is. It's a wonderful tool in what it is, and if you think about the dollar cost in terms of doing the safe system assessment and altering any infrastructure to give us this kind of reduction, it's pretty impressive. I don't know what like a dollars per serious casualty saved would be on, and I don't think they ever actually costed the changes here. I don't think they put a dollar figure to that, but that would be an interesting exercise to do. But I have no doubt. I mean, a lot of this stuff was a drop in the ocean of these, you know, $700 million projects, and you know, $300 million duplication jobs and things like that. So they were drops in the ocean when considering the magnitude of these projects.
Thank you, Ken. That's all the questions we've got for now.
Good questions, but keep them coming in, because I find this graph fascinating in terms of the story it sort of tells you. Be good to do it now that, you know, there's probably been many hundreds of safe system assessments done, if not thousands, and to gather a bigger pool of data.
Sorry, just as I said that, a comment came in, which says, what you say is 100% correct. I'm not sure, Kevin. I don't agree with that. Anyway, Japan has half the casualty rate of New Zealand, but inferior safety infrastructure. They have a better driving and behaviour culture. Yeah.
So I think that we need to acknowledge this holistic interactive system that we're part of, and there's a lot we can do with the infrastructure, but that is going to rely on all elements of the system working hard. So I suppose infrastructure is my thing that I play in all the time, but certainly all of these behavioural enforcement, vehicle technology, style, ways that we can improve things are certainly have a major role to play. And yeah, looking at some of the other countries and how they operate, it would be interesting. I don't know, Kathy, you were just recently in Japan, weren't you?
Yeah, I was just before COVID. So that was interesting, and I don't know. They certainly have a different behaviour, different culture. But I actually I took a lot of snaps of their road infrastructure because I'm a bit sad like that, and some of it was quite impressive actually.
Anyway, they're interesting. It's interesting to look at it all, and I think we've got a huge amount of work to do. That tells us a story about how much work we've got to do in a whole lot of areas, and And then this one, I think, is what we're going to be spending a lot of time focusing on, getting our own backyard in order. Getting some politicians on board, looking for some courageous leadership, and yeah, pushing things pretty hard. Some of the benefits, just dot pointed here, and lots of words on this, but I think you hopefully will have seen that a safe system assessment is a way of determining how well a project aligns with safe system principles. It's not giving a tick or a cross, as in that is safe system or that's not safe system. It's saying, this one aligns very well with safe system principles, this one not as well. Method for comparing project design options from a safe system perspective. I do really like that when you're in there at those stages of a project development where they're doing their optioneering. They've got 5 options on the table, and you're able to have that ability to show which one aligns better with safe system principles. But you don't end there. You're also saying for each of them, or their chosen one, these are other things that can be done to get it to align better with safe system principles. And certainly, I don't think a road safety audit ever really does that comparative. It shouldn't. That's sort of part of what road safety auditing is not. It's not a way to compare projects, but this does some of that comparative analysis. Information on design changes that will move a project closer to the safe system objective of eliminating the risk of fatalities and serious injuries. So yeah, just injecting those things to further move things along. Method for assisting planners, designers, project managers to move their projects from this safe system theory to practice. And that's, again, one where I think there's quite a bit of the industry out there who has safe system terminology and at a theoretical level can talk quite well about safe system and commitments. But when we actually get to a project and on-ground decisions are being made, a lot of that gets thrown out the window. So I think this is one tool, again, in the big jigsaw puzzle of us achieving these things that can assist. Sound basis, future planning and design of road infrastructure. I think it helps out in that sense. Any questions at this stage, Kathy?
No, just some more commentary on Japan, I'm afraid.
Okay. Well, that's all good. All right. So I want to show you through some process guidance, almost policy related stuff as well, and sort of, I suppose, get you to be ready to get out there and really implement safe system assessments in New Zealand in the most effective way. We don't want them done if they're not going to be adding value, and we don't, well, that's really pretty much it. You don't want to be adding red tape to an infrastructure project. What we have sort of discovered is that the best time to do a safe system assessment is in these early parts of projects. The concept, draft. Now, you might use different terminology here. I've taken this sort of project life cycle straight from the Austroads Guide to Road Safety Part 6 and managing road safety audits. Early stages, these safe system assessments are really providing that value. And they get we feel that they're not quite the right tool once you're into the details of a project and the detailed design. I mean, that's one where past experience has come into play, where we've got the detailed design set for a major outer suburban arterial duplication. We got a kind of number of these, and they've said, oh, we're committed to safety. Safety's our #1 objective, and we're all about safety. And we'll get this final safe system assessment done on the detailed design, and we'll stand on the podium as wonderful people who are going to, doing all the right things. And the project was assessed and performed, okay. It reduced the safe system assessment score by a tiny little bit, increased in some areas, and there were quite a few recommendations on some fairly fundamental changes to their design in terms of not being able to run signalised intersections at 80 kilometres per hour, and different changes there, continuous barrier systems, separated bike facilities. So they were very much coming from this, mindset that duplicating the road is improving road safety. And they might be right by this little bit, but it's a far cry from what we're hoping for projects with high alignment with safe system principles. Now, do you think they did anything about that after they were at their basically ready to put these designs out for tender? Well, no. I mean, all the safe system did was throw a major cat amongst the pigeons, and they, I think, returned the report, cancelled the safe system assessment contract, pretended it never happened. Basically, that was to them this absolute disaster, and they're not going to change their 9 months worth of design or whatever it was, or a year worth of design and documentation. What they were thinking that was, there'd be some little tweaks around, the barrier should be, this little bit of barrier you got here should be adjusted this little bit. But no, it's fundamental changes that were being put forward, and they wanted some stamp. So the road safety audit, I suppose, ideally would also be pushing some of these, but we're finding that the audits at the detailed design stage are more into these intricate details rather than holistically looking at that scheme and genuinely pushing alterations to the project. What we do suggest, though, is that any road safety audits that are being done are referring back to what the safe system assessment at the early stages said, so to provide that consistency and continuity. Road safety auditors we're working on across Australia and New Zealand, and certainly a lot of leading stuff happening in New Zealand in terms of skilling up road safety auditors to understand some of the key safe system principles and how they're applied. Some of the stuff that we've seen, which just blew my mind, was we did safe system assessments, for example, that suggested continuous safety barrier on rural roads, and the detailed design road safety audit comes in recommending the removal of the barriers except for very key locations where the hazards are within the 9 or 10 metre clear zone, and for areas where it was the trees were at 12 metres, that the barrier should be removed because the barrier presents a hazard. And you sort of go, well, bloody hell, okay. We're de-scoping now the project from safety features that we know are proven. Now that's just a capability capacity issue with road safety auditors in safe system knowledge and the most current road safety infrastructure thinking and the like. So that's how that one really needs to be worked, but also them referring back to any safe system assessment that's been done at an earlier stage to get an understanding of what's being pushed, and maybe have that discussion with the safe system assessor rather than a de-scoping a project like that or changing it. Now this is altering this table, and ticks and crosses are probably not the right things to have used in this. Maybe a scale and how much a safe system assessment or a road safety audit focuses on these different things, but identify issues that deal with the likelihood of crashes. Well, both a road safety audit and a safe system assessment do that in a really good way. And I would dare say that likelihood column and cell of your matrix, or likelihood row of your matrix in a safe system assessment, is very close to a road safety audit in a traditional sense. The severity is sometimes looked at in a road safety audit, always looked at in a safe system assessment. And I do say sometimes because it's certainly part of, you know, risk assessment to look at severity and the like, but sometimes it is ignored in the sense that a road user would have to, you know, have error in order for that severity to precipitate, if that makes sense. So the classic example being that red light, traffic signals, high-speed road, and just piles and piles of audits coming in that don't at all mention running of the red light in terms of severity aspects. They're all about the likelihood, the sight distance to the signals, the use of mast arms or LEDs, the line marking on the approach, and all of those things. And then it's sort of ignored once the red light running happens. Now, all of that likelihood stuff's hugely important, and that should be in everything we're doing. But we've got to take that acknowledgement that this red light running is something that will still happen even with all that wonderful stuff, and deal with the energy as a result and the severity of the crash. Exposure. Well, again, an audit's probably not going to quantify exposure or think about it in that sense. And it's really just packed into the likelihood if it ever is really thought about in a road safety audit, as opposed to its distinct element. There's some advantages of thinking about it in a distinct element. Anyway, we'll keep going. Provides recommendations that improve road safety. Well, they both do that in almost every jurisdiction except for New South Wales. Considers all road users. Yep, both do that. Focuses on fatal and serious injury crashes only. Yeah, so a safe system assessment is wholly focused on that. And the road safety audit will often be picking up and presenting minor issues, which, you know, that's can be an advantage sometimes if you're managing a project to get a list of these minor things. But yeah, a lot of the stuff you really feel in a road safety audit. And I've seen audits with 800 recommendations for well, it's a decent upgrade, but yeah, 780 of them you can just throw out because they're not actually going to impact on the number of fatal and serious injuries. They're all minor little bits and pieces. Almost like, anyway, I won't go into that. So focuses on all crashes. So yeah, that's where the road safety audit probably shines a little bit. Safer vehicles. Well, in a full safe system assessment, you're having a look at the vehicles. Safer people. I would say an audit, road safety audit, sometimes is focused a bit on that, on the behavioural aspects, and what are the people of the area doing, and where are the pubs, and you know what's going on. Investigates the impacts on maintenance. So, you know, can the area be maintained? You sort of do that in a safe system assessment in some of those qualitative questions. Post-crash care, well, that's really, I don't think ever really thought about in a road safety audit. Makes recommendations to redesign the project if required. So again, across is a bit hard probably there, but you know, auditors are making slight recommendations, but probably trying to work with the project and keeping their what they're trying to do and not make major alterations. And a safe system assessment is freely putting down some major alterations. Again, that one's probably got a bit of debate to be had with it. Encourages innovative designs to improve harm minimisation. And again, I think innovation is sort of far easier to be recommending and things in a safe system assessment. And a safe system assessment can also be done at a program level. So you can do whole programs under this same methodology and thinking, and it's a bit hard to road safety audit at that level. Any questions or comments on that?
No, all good, Ken.
Seeing lots of lights flashing. Must be good Japan conversation going on.
No. We've we've moved on. There was some comments about people having clients who've asked for changes in audits before final submissions over the years, which is a bit sad. And there was some earlier commentary about the benefits should decrease greatly if the centre barrier is removed. They would have removed the centreline barrier, so the BC was improved. This was earlier on.
Yeah, I think of the example I was giving. I'm not sure exactly what that's referring to, but yeah, cost is always a factor at play in these big jobs, and yeah, we need to, I suppose, work with that in mind, that the costs there, big issue for them. All right, well, I'll keep going and then we can have other questions, but feel free to pop your hand up if you want to chat about any of these. As I say, we've got a good bit of time in this session for discussion and the like. But the general process for a safe system assessment that's been laid down is somewhat similar to the process for a road safety audit. In fact, the decisions were made to keep it very similar because it's a process people are quite comfortable with and they understand, and seems to flow quite easily. So the first thing is really that decision on a full or a rapid safe system assessment. If New Zealand decides to go down that track where you have a full and a rapid, there's no mention of that in the Austra's guidelines. That's just something that Victoria and South Australia have now developed as an industry practice in having this full-blown safe system assessment or a scaled back one, which is referred to as a rapid. And I'll show you the difference between those two shortly. But that's the clients deciding that. And then the assessment team is selected. And in terms of how do they know that somebody's got a base level of competency in safe system assessments, again, there's not much out there. Victoria publishes a list of recommended safe system assessors, which I'll show you where that is shortly. And South Australia is about to do the same. But no other jurisdictions really got on to doing that. Certainly, I know that New Zealand doesn't go down the track of publishing a register of road safety auditors, so not sure you'll go down the track of publishing a list of safe system assessors if you're not doing it for auditors. But and there's administrative challenges associated with doing that, of course. Then there's some sort of commencement meeting or discussion or the like, and that's between the designers and the client. Client, in this case, sort of project manager of the project and the assessment team. And this can often be done in the same package where you're defining and understanding the project context, as we talked about last module, where we were honing into what's the purpose of the project, what's the function of the road, what are the volumes, why is this being done here, all of that sort of stuff. Then you're inspecting the site, and some of you have done that already for your mock one, but others, and you gain that sort of better understanding again. You complete the safe system assessment matrix. You consider the other safe system elements in terms of those qualitative questions. Identify anything else that you would like to add that improves alignment with safe system principles. You document all this in a report, and now we're at the stage where there's templates available, as you've seen, at least from Victoria, and certainly you're welcome to copy ours, which is basically the same. But we do want that consistency in reporting, it helps out. And then it's handed over to the client, and it's over to them to fill out that column of the table of recommendations or ideas for consideration and respond to some of these. Now, what actually happens there in terms of handed back to the safe system assessment team or the like, who knows? A bit like, I suppose, a road safety audit. It's over to the client, and it's up to them to take that and make the most of it. The assessor has really sort of done their job there, haven't they? And then amendments are made, alterations, and incorporated in. So actually, I'm going to go back here. So at this point, sometimes it goes back to here. When they say, yep, we are going to do this, and this one of what you have recommended. We're not going to do this, this, or this. Can you please rescore it and give us a final score in terms of how this, how our final design has improved alignment with safe system principles. As a project manager, that tells a pretty nice story usually, because what it does is says the existing conditions are this, our design option was this, and after we did this safe system assessment and we're open to the ideas of really improving things, getting the best alignment with safe system principles, it came all the way down to this. So it sort of gets that really nice sort of show of continual improvement and pushing, and that the team has done everything that they can.
Ken,
Yes.
is it similar to doing a road safety audit where you might include different disciplines, people such as human factors specialists, etc.?
There's not good clarity around that or recommendations or anything like that. Certainly, you have that possibility to get that extra input and get that wider view on things. I mean, a human factors expert would be assisting you in adding more dot points into your likelihood row and trying to understand any interaction between the infrastructure, the vehicle, and the human in terms of how they perceive the road network or anything that might be, making error more likely, I suppose. So you could be doing that. Police, certainly, I like to talk to. I don't have them as part of the team as such, but have a conversation with them about the area, the road users, the enforcement that they're doing in the areas and the like, to get that holistic understanding of it. In practical senses, most of the time, really, the team are people who have a good background in road safety engineering and a bit of wider thinking about safety issues, and then getting bits and pieces of advice from others as opposed to having others in the team. But there's nothing really to stop that. I suppose you do always, like in a road safety audit, you get a nice, rich, different points of views when you gather others into your audit team. But in the end, the sort of auditor, the person who's going to sign off on it, is the one signing things off. So those are just adding extra value and extra perspectives to that. So I hope that sort of answers it in a wishy-washy way, that there's could add some value, but it's up to you. So again, I just am going to show you sort of a few things from Victoria, just for your knowledge, a few things from South Australia as well, and really it's over to New Zealand how you play this out, and certainly some commitments already in your strategy, so that's great, and now how this all rolls out. The VicRoads one, the Safe System Engineering team, has those guidelines, the templates in there as well. And as I mentioned, they publish this this list of what they call recommended safe system assessors. So it's not a it's an interesting term that they've used there. not accredited or anything like that, but just recommended. But anyway, this course is in there as one of the things they need to see, or some equivalent course to give them that knowledge and on some of these sort of process aspects, but also those nuances of a safe system assessment. So just having that base level sort of understanding of the safe system philosophy, you need a bit more than that. And then you need to get some experience, submit a safe system assessment, which is reviewed, and then you go onto the list. So there's a bit of administrative work associated with that, as you'd imagine. And then they just publish a PDF list, which they update quite regularly, with lists of lots of assessors, and that goes on and on and on. Well, it actually doesn't go on and on. It's only about 30 or 40, I think, so far, but it's a growing list. Now, I don't think there's anything on there that says you have to be a Victorian to apply. So you could freely put one of your safe system assessments in and see what they say. Again, just giving you some ideas on what Victoria does in terms of a policy. So I'm just, have stamped that example only. This is not New Zealand requirements, but it might give you some ideas. They've gone with the theory of sort of saying this is an extra process. Well, it could be an extra process, or it is a process to follow, and it's going to cost a bit of money and take a bit of time and the like. And let's use it for where we believe the biggest bang can be got from the dollars spent and the like. But they're saying that under $2 million, a rapid safe system assessment, where it has been determined that a formal assessment is required. So there's not saying that everything under 2 million needs to have a safe system assessment. So it's optional, and the benefits of conducting that, you should be using sort of risk factors. Where it's not undertaken, they're still saying you've got to document how the project has considered safe system alignment. So that may be that it's like a whole program safe system assessment has been done. I don't know. So it's a shoulder sealing program, for example. Well, each individual road, they don't want to do a safe system assessment on each individual one. They've done a program one, and so each project doesn't get one, but they just put in the program safe system assessment, and I don't know, say there's nothing else. Yeah, there'd be case by cases where you might get advantage out of doing a safe system assessment on that, but you can see that the dollars will rack up pretty quick. But are you going to get great value in going through that whole process? Between 2 and 5 million, a full safe system assessment for complex projects or projects with significant FSI risk, fatal serious injury risk, or anything innovative. And rapid for projects with low FSI risk, or any repeat safe system assessments after that full safe system assessment has been done. It's desirable and the preferred method. And again, if for some reason it's not done, it needs to be documented why. Although this is, pushing into it, very much should be done. And then above 5 million, full safe system assessments for all. And rapid if a full safe system assessment has been done and there's a repeat assessment happening because of alterations or the like. And it must be completed there. So it is the word. So, I mean, that's a very, I suppose, traditional way to do an infrastructure assessment review style policy, peg it back to total estimated cost of the project, and make your decisions accordingly. There's many other ways that it could be done, and it's for you to play out. I thought I'd show you that out of interest. And I'll show you the difference that they have between a full safe system assessment and a rapid safe system assessment. Again, example, and this is only just, well, this is actually Victorian and South Australian as well. So a full safe system assessment goes through everything that we've talked about, everything that was in that diagram. The rapid safe system assessment doesn't have, so you don't necessarily have that workshop or initial meeting as such. It can be handed over and sort of off you go. You are going to want to get some of that background context somehow, but it might be just a lesser scale. The site inspection becomes an optional thing in a rapid safe system assessment, so you don't need to do the site inspection. Often in rapid, still you do a site inspection anyway, but it's an optional thing. You don't need to do that. You still do the matrix, but the other thing about a rapid safe system assessment is you don't consider those other elements, those qualitative questions that we went through. You just stick to the matrix, and that's it. But you still provide those recommendations for any changes or things to consider, and it's treated accordingly. So there's not like, there is difference in the resources required, the time, the effort, the cost between the two, but it is not they're not poles apart. There is less effort in a rapid, but it's still got a fair bit of effort. Okay, so I'm going to pause at that point. I'm going to pause two things. I'm going to give everybody a chance to stand up and have a stretch. We're halfway through our 2-hour session, and it's got me to the point where I've sort of had that conversation or presented what I wanted to around the process of safe system assessment, around how to do a safe system assessment last module, around the principles of the safe system and how they relate to safe system assessment. So we're pretty much packaged that up. And the last thing we got for today is really to just go through some of these different road environments and talk about different infrastructure and different things that can be done. And as I said, we can do that for sort of half an hour or a little longer, but time now for people to make comments or questions. But let's just have 20 seconds to have a bit of a stretch, and then I'll hear from Kathy on any questions. So.
Question, Ken, to confirm, did we need to do a site visit in the rapid safe system assessment?
Good question. And the answer is no, you don't have to. You may elect to. So the rapid does not require a site inspection, but it's optional. Any other questions come through there, Kathy?
Not at the minute. We're good at the minute.
Okay. Well, I think it's probably a good opportunity to jump into some of the, I suppose, these different cross-sectional environments, or sorry, stereotypical environments, I suppose I should call them, and just have a general discussion about how we would make these areas higher aligned with safe system principles using the tools in the toolkit we have at the moment. And I thought I'd try to cover off these different road environments: residential, shopping strips, mixed use arterials, low volume rural roads, high volume rural roads, high volume outer suburban arterials, major urban freeways, major rural highways. So I think that fairly much covers all the road environments that we've got. Others might think something else that I've missed. But what I wanted to do is just pop up an environment like this for each of them, just a random photo that's been that we've taken somewhere, and get some input from the group, just typing in there what sort of changes could we make to these road environments, features that could be added, alterations that would give us higher alignment with safe system principles. And this would really come about after you've scored it, used the matrix, and then you're recommending any alterations and changes. So, of course, what I do want to keep you always thinking exposure, likelihood, and severity. Anything that you recommend or idea you have in alterations, tell me if it influences the exposure, the likelihood, or the severity. So here we go. You don't know very much about this at all. There's a major arterial road down here, and this is a 50 km/h local residential street. Let's go. Start typing some ideas in, and let's have a little bit of a chat about this. We're not going to spend too long on any of these, but
Ken, could we, whilst people are typing that in, could we have a question about SSA and RSA comparison?
Yeah.
Severity of crashes in a motorway situation, we'll have one non-injury crash creates kilometres of queuing with injury crashes in the downstream. How do you apply a safe system to a project where the influence area is huge?
Yeah, it's a challenging one. So safe system assessments on motorway projects sort of probably sort of think about that in multiple ways, which is the, I suppose, initial crash you're thinking about, but then you would really just factor the others in as different rear end crashes or runoff roads associated with incidents, congestion, and these sorts of things. So it would be factored in. Again, if you've got a small section of the motorway that you're assessing, I don't know, they're adding a little bit of a lane or alterations to the off ramp or something like that, and you're then worried about the downstream impacts of any issues there, you can include that, even though the incident is out of the envelope of the project you're assessing, but it has been influenced by that. So you'd sort of include it in the scope. Now, motorways are probably ones where people will be fairly comfortable with you doing that. If you go to these longer bows to draw, like an alteration to an urban intersection, and you start saying, well, that's going to redistribute traffic here, which is going to redistribute traffic here, which is going to alter this, and you know, you're 4 blocks away and you say that it's going to have some, it might be too long a bow. If it's very clear cut, like you're going to implement a right turn ban at one intersection, and you go, great, I've you know, eliminated exposure there. Well, obviously they're going to have to go in somewhere else, and you'd have to start considering where that change and that new conflict is going to arise. But yeah, certainly we don't just ignore that. Okay, let's have a look at what wonderful things that are coming in from our participants here. Oh, good. Look, this is sorry, I'm just, here we go. Okay, traffic calming measures at the entry and exit points of the road, likelihood. Yeah, so definitely likelihood and also potentially severity if you're able to influence that speed associated with that, you know, those calming measures, and, you know, very much alerting everybody to the fact that this is a different road environment and it's a slower speed. Curb extensions, raised tables, intermittent curb extensions and the like. Yeah, again, slowing vehicles down, making people more aware. So possibly one-way streets and the like could help. Sometimes having 2 ways and parked cars and things can slow things down significantly, which is a good thing, but there's some other challenges. Yeah, chicanes, lots of things in here to reduce speed, which is very good. And then even commentary around, could it be a shared zone or something like that, and then altering the environment to that. And that's something I think we talked about in the 3rd module, isn't it? About, well, what's the sort of movement and place categorization? What are we trying to get out of this road? What are the priority road users? How do we alter things accordingly. So lots of good stuff. Okay, another one in there from Kevin, which is a great one, is about you know, do we need that opening? Could it be cut off? Could it be a cul-de-sac? And those are the kind of, you know, great questions we want. These areas shouldn't be used as those through routes, those rut runs and cut throughs. You know, they obviously have to access in and out, but can we consolidate that and make it harder to have that fast run through? So some great commentary there, absolutely. Agree with all of that. So in shopping strips, now, you know, these are high activity places. Again, I'll let you have any commentary on this one in particular. I'll give a prize if anybody can tell me which city that's in. As you go about it, but tell me the likelihood, the severity aspects of it. Again, you don't know too much. It's obviously high pedestrian activity. It's a road, a couple of roads. It's currently got a 40 km/h speed limit through there, and on this one. But this one down here is one way, but this one is two way. So any ideas? And yeah, as I said, anybody who happens to be able to tell me where that is? Oh, wow. Okay, it's come in there. It is in Sydney, and it is Bondi Junction. Well done. Now, I'm not even sure who that is because it's come up as some sort of computer name.
No, it's not. It's Gerald. That's real name.
Oh, it is. Okay, sorry.
Yep.
Yep. Good. Yep, Gerald. Well done, Sydney, Bondi Junction. Well, there you go. Prize there. Okay. It's labeled in the photo. Is it? Ah, there you go. If anybody can read that, it actually says Bondi Junction. So well done. Thank you, James, for pointing that out. Maybe have to block that out if I'm going to ask that question again in the future.
This is a very keen-eyed group, that's for sure.
I know, aren't they? They're doing a very good job. I'm liking it. Okay, we're seeing some really good stuff come in here. So a couple of people, yeah, again, going with banning cars, absolutely. I mean, the amount of pedestrian activity there, that makes it something fairly viable. Shared space, lowering the speeds, absolutely. This group's, you know, very much onto all of this. Making it as small as possible, reducing the likelihood there of crashes. Okay, so some behavioural change initiatives, potentially people using their phone and the like in the middle of the street, and there's lots of that that we know happens out there, and how we get some alterations to that. Actually, Sydney did try to do some different things in that. I'm always intrigued by what people try, but changing that behaviour is going to be a bigger challenge than just what we can do in these intersections. Yeah, make it more a place function. What a wonderful comment there from Ranjan. I mean, that's exactly it, isn't it? Back to those place functions. It's obviously a place and it can be treated accordingly. Packed footpath, empty roads, get rid of the roads. Love it. Thanks, Kevin. Exactly. So I think we're all clear on that. I don't think we need to spend much longer on it. And in fact, this group's really very good at this. Often working with groups who aren't quite as attuned to some of these ways of thinking and things that can be done and are very, yeah, haven't got the same background. Right, let's keep moving on. Oh, Oh, I've gone too far. I'm going back. Okay. Mixed use arterial. Oh, I'm going to give a prize for this this city. And some of you should know it. And I'm pretty sure I got it right. Yeah, Heather was first in with Hamilton, Patron, City of the Future. Correct. It is Hamilton. So I've called this, so yeah, Kathy, note that one down. I've called this a mixed use arterial, which is a sort of broad categorization of those roads which are, you know, still trying to perform that traffic function, that movement function, but are also, you know, built up with activity around the side and some place and the like. And this is sort of the outskirts of Hamilton and Hamilton City, the CBD, but, you know, still get a bit of pedestrian activity. So, you know, hard to deal with. It's also got buses and, you know, some bikes and things. So what sort of things do you think we can be doing in these environments to improve alignment with safe system principles and exposure, likelihood and severity? Remember to put in exposure, likelihood and severity. Seeing lots of great ideas. I just like everything to be categorized nicely. Okay, this is great. Seeing lots of good stuff coming in. Now this one's probably looking at some pretty decent principles. I'm getting lots of commentary in there around two things: either really looking for that separation of vulnerable road users from the higher speed traffic, or the slowing down of the speed of the traffic at different points, and maybe trying to identify those conflict points and reduce speed around those conflict points. But you know, to people talking in there about what are the desire lines and can we slow speeds around those, the parking. So this is an interesting, yeah, always an interesting debate, parking. I mean, parking is a pretty low value use of road space when we can use it for providing that throughput, especially with other road users, vulnerable road users or the like, but it becomes extremely problematic at an individual site level. So in theory, it's all good, but certainly I do think we should be pushing on that sort of stuff to provide those separated or opportunities for utilizing that road space in a better way. So service roads certainly could be an option in terms of if you were wanting to continue to be able to move vehicles at a decent speed through there, but you still have that challenge of people crossing. So you'd need to supplement that with some really low speed sort of crossing points. A lot of people talking about speed tables and platforms at different points, and they are certainly wonderful things in these environments. And I certainly think that those sorts of environments here and, you know, the intersection that's just close by would be some wonderful ones to almost act like gateways into the more built up area, the more CBD environments, to really start the slowing down process a bit earlier. There's some, you know, wonderful features within the absolute CBD there of Hamilton that really encourage that slow speeds. Could that start to happen further out? And we know that those higher speed areas, as you go further and further out, are challenging. What am I seeing here? few little specific points. So interesting one on a bypass of Hamilton itself in terms of changing the exposure. Well, yeah, that's an interesting point. And the way you go about that in a safe system assessment is that, as I think I mentioned to you, you can do a safe system assessment on the existing conditions, which might go through here. I'm not sure exactly how you would go through Hamilton if you were just going through, but anyway, let's hypothetically say you would here. You know, you could do this route, do a baseline safe system assessment on that, and then you would do the bypass, the new bypass you're planning, and you'd get a score for that. But you could also then score your existing road and show how it changes with the volume would change. And the reason I think that that's always really important is because sometimes we do a town bypass and then we leave the existing road infrastructure as it was, and it gets, yes, less traffic, so less exposure. But that is the time that we should be absolutely altering the function of those roads and bringing speeds down and closing it up and putting, you know, really altering it. So because it's no longer that you know, major freight function throughput route, that's when we need to be doing it. So we recently just did a big safe system assessment for New South Wales, and that was completely like, this is going to be a massive, massive project that they're doing with a number of bypasses, and the existing roads that they have, which are high speed, trees close to the road, we're talking 100 km/h roads, trees fairly close to the road, fairly average infrastructure. They're building wonderful facilities, continuous barrier systems, lots of grade separated interchanges and the like. But the roads that they're moving people off we're going to stay exactly as they were. And then the safe system assessment was an opportunity to say, well, don't forget that. And in fact, here's some scores on that, because people are still going to be using them, and this is your opportunity to really fundamentally change some of that. And lots of advantages that people are coming in on different facilities. We'll keep moving on, but enjoying the discussion here. I do like Hamilton. Okay, here we go. I'm not going to pop out a prize for working out where this is, because it could be anywhere in, well, probably Australia. I don't think there's too many gum trees like that. The speed here is 100 km/h as the speed limit, and we know that the operating speed is a little bit above that in these environments. So let's have a look at a few ideas on these. And the volume of traffic here, though, I should say, is somewhere around the 500 vehicles a day. So it's pretty low volume. In fact, it's a very nice road for that low a volume, but it is what it is. And that's, I suppose, the interesting thing. The road had some bad crash history and got an upgrade, and this is how they sort of upgraded it. And that's why it's such a lovely standard. But I think that shows, you know, shows how a lot of people think about road safety. So, you know, really, basically, it was surface improvements and line marking that they did. And it's not really going to get us to where we want. Good, okay, lots of, again, wonderful stuff coming in, and a few people remembering to always put exposure, likelihood, and severity, and some people just putting in good ideas, which I will help to categorize. Okay, we've got quite a few people at some point have popped down barrier systems, and in theory, you're spot on. That's going to give us great alignment with safe system principles, with outer barriers and central barriers. The challenge we're going to have is that this is a low volume road. The cost of that is going to be huge. And so in a sort of strategic rollout of our infrastructure, is this the right place to be putting that? And you probably going to find that it's probably not at those low volumes. I know some of you popped that in before I told you how low volume this road was, but the challenge here is the cost on that. Then some people had some things around ceiling shoulders, audio tactile edge line and center line and the like. And certainly those sorts of things are bringing the likelihood of crashes down, and that's good. And then we did start to get some people commenting on the speed, and a few have specified speed limit, and some have just said reduce the speed. So that will reduce the likelihood, certainly, potentially some of the severity aspects, but still fairly high speed if it's dropped to 80 even. But the reality is that that is what is going to have to happen in this huge, vast, expansive network we have at low volume. That is, the infrastructure is this or less, and the cost of the infrastructure upgrades is so huge, and we know, the higher volume roads are going to be getting the more expensive infrastructure, and we're really into those spaces of some likelihood reduction factors with signs and lines and little bits and pieces, and then some ways to significantly bring the likelihood and a bit of severity down using the management of speed. Gee, it's going to be a challenge though, because as you know, the community are quite determined that speed is not the issue on these roads. It's people who can't drive or doing stupid things or whatever it is, but the evidence is clear that that will help. The technology of point-to-point speed cameras and mobile point-to-point speed cameras, I think, is going to be a bit of a game changer in this space to start with, in terms of being able to plonk your mobile car at one end and then one at the other, and 10 kilometers down the track, and do a point-to-point on this sort of stuff, or the facilities. So that will help out to a degree. And I think maybe some continual strategic thinking about how we get the community not necessarily on board of this, but not actively lobbying the politicians against it, or and then maybe things like nighttime speed limits to start, to get people understanding that we're targeting certain points of risk and the like, and a few ideas. But I do think we often don't think about speed as holistically, and speed limits especially, as holistically as we should. I think a lot of eyes on New Zealand's speed management programs and the way that that's been done. So I feel that I often just steal ideas from over the ditch and polish them up into an Australian form and re-put them out there, because there's some pretty impressive stuff. But I don't think any jurisdiction in the world's cracked this nut. I think Sweden probably initially did one of the best, getting a default 70 km/h speed limit for rural roads, and then electing the roads that would be raised in the speed limit, and that had the appropriate infrastructure. I think that's probably the best practice we've seen, and we need to sort of continue to look for these opportunities. I do like the speed lotto idea as a nice little way to start to seed some of this in. I think I might have mentioned this to this group, but maybe not. But having essentially that point-to-point speed camera set up, but having anybody who speeds through there fined, and anybody who doesn't speed through there going into the draw to win all the money of the speeders. And that, to me, sort of your ultimate alteration of the way speed limits and speed management has been played out, because it's not about that revenue raising, obviously, and it's about just getting people to comply, and if you're going to use the levers of finance and economic levers in there, you could just have a redistribution of it in that sense. And those sorts of ideas I think we need to keep playing on. But the reality is we're going to need the speeds to go down here until such time that the vehicles are in a state where they don't crash. because of what they have built into them. We have long cry from that at the moment. But in the absolute short term, addressing some of these likelihood factors, looking at that speed limit, but a lot of the stuff that's mentioned in there is really good. I agree. Somebody mentioned wide center lines. I think that's a wonderful approach in reducing likelihood of crashes, and I really think that the sort of, I don't know, 3.5 meter, I've gone too far forward, 3.5 meter lanes is probably not required in these sorts of environments, and certainly reallocating some of that space to be able to provide that offset is a good thing. But little bits and pieces to play with in that. Okay, higher volume ones. Now, geez, I'm not even sure I'll be able to accurately say where this is. I know I took the photo, but I'm not going to give any prizes because I won't be able to confidently hand on heart say one way or another. But you know, it's definitely in New Zealand, I should say. Let's go again with writing in a few ideas on what could possibly be done on these sorts of roads in exposure, likelihood, and severity. We're in the higher volume roads now, major transport sort of corridors up there, you know, 4,000, 5,000, 8,000 vehicles a day. Okay, looking really good here. We've got a lot of uniformity in the comments that are coming in, which I think is an indication that you're all playing in the same space, and you're all from the same organisation and have the generally similar philosophy, which is good. And lots of people wanting to see at least a centre barrier system put in place, which would reduce the likelihood and severity. So the reason likelihood and severity are probably both right in one sense. The likelihood of a head-on would reduce. Now, in most central barrier systems, I put the likelihood would come down significantly of head-on crashes, almost to zero. But the reason I don't quite put that is for breaching the barrier, the central system, heavy vehicles, and obviously most of the barrier systems we're putting in central are not tested and won't likely withstand a heavy vehicle, which is very, very rare. But you know, I don't think that we are putting an elimination of the exposure there. And the severity being the severity of the runoff road crash over to the right, and the severity of the head-on crash, though, if the breaching was to occur, would be just as high. So I don't tend to alter the severity of head-on, it's the runoff road. Interestingly, though, you know, the likelihood of runoff road you may put it even partly high because hitting the barrier system is a crash in its own right. So there's a little bit of playing around with how you sort of think about and categorize that up. But I dare say that, you know, everybody here who's putting that in is onto a winner from a better alignment with safe system perspective. Just looking if anybody's got any. Use OGPA. I'm trying to work out what it is. Open grade something asphalt, I would assume. So that would be a likelihood factor, absolutely, as was mentioned there. open grade porous asphalt. Thank you. Yeah, I was wondering if the P was well, good. It's coming in from everybody. Thank you. Yeah, so those sorts of things, you know, playing with the details of the pavement design and those sorts of things are going to really fundamentally be slight alterations in your likelihood score. And you know, they might be bigger in some situations than other situations, and that's good. Limiting access roads along the corridor, another great one, and consolidating access points and altering then the likelihood or exposure depending on the scenario. Audio tactiles, likelihood, absolutely. So lots of, you know, really best practice road safety engineering coming through from this group, which is great. Most people saying sort of a continuous barrier, but others sort of mentioning where it may have the highest benefit depending on what the scenario is if you can't afford continuous barrier systems throughout. And I really do encourage anybody who hasn't yet watched the Austroad's Guide to Road Design Part 6 webinars and read the new Part 6 to get a copy of that, because their ability to assist you with roadside hazard ratings in terms of what is more risky than others is a really wonderful tool that we now have available to us. If you're trying to make those decisions, if you don't have enough money to do that continuous, where is the best spend? So roadside designs really should be taking that new guidance into account. Okay, I might keep going. Gee, this is a very good group. At the intersections on these high volume, high and low volume rural roads, well, the higher volume ones, as somebody rightly pointed out, consolidating access is great. And then you can utilize these areas for wonderful turnaround points. I mean, there's a very easy you know, answer here on a central barrier system and then a roundabout at this location. There's going to be such a wonderful way to take some of the access points and make them come down and do a U-turn to go the other way. Obviously, limitations on how far you can push them to be doing that. But certainly we know the other sort of turnaround treatments that are available out there, the jug handles or the utilization of different parts of an intersection to turn around. And we can see some pretty good benefits. But certainly these areas on these high volume roads especially present us with significant risk. And we know that ways to reduce the speed, it will be good. So the REORS style treatments in the interim to get you to really slowing those speeds using like the roundabouts or grade separation as you can afford. High volume, you know, these big outer suburban arterial roads. Some people would call them traffic sewers, but I won't say that. That are pumping lots of vehicles through, and they're providing, you know, they're acknowledged as that traffic priority route. So what sort of things? Let's do this one. Pop in a few ideas. We'll do this one and we'll do the next couple fairly quickly, and then we'll just have a little bit of time for any final comments or questions. So chuck your ideas in to this one on some alterations. We're talking about so 40,000 vehicles a day through there. It's currently, you know, an 80 km/h speed limit at the moment. I'll be looking for any ideas on some alterations. Okay, geez, great stuff coming in again. So getting some commentary around roundabout. Oh no, that's probably from the last one. I'm gonna relocate power poles. So severity, well, it may be severity or it may be likelihood. So if we're just relocating them, there's still a chance that they'll be struck if they're pushed further back. Protecting them would be, you know, protecting road users from them with barrier systems would more be the severity factor. So I'm just looking at a few others here. Lots of great stuff coming in. Sorry, I'm just going to grab a few. Okay, cyclists. Well, removing and separating cyclists, altering the likelihood and or severity of crashes, absolutely. So, I mean, really mixing high-speed traffic with cyclists on road like this with a white line is just, you know, fundamentally unacceptable and does not align well with our safe system principles. We know people will leave their lanes, so we've got to try to alter that. Now, how far you move it off maybe is depending on whether you're going to go with likelihood or severity. But yeah, absolutely. Left in, left out, and closing the median into exposure. Yes, well, it will kind of alter the exposure, and this is a bit of a challenging one. Have a look at the fact sheet we provided on that. You still do have an intersection there, but you're right. The exposure may be altered because less people would be coming in and out. You'll also reduce the likelihood as well, so you'll be able to factor that in. So slowing vehicles through the intersection seems to be a good one with raised platforms and the like. And it's wonderful to see the Austroads research report on raised safety platforms just released last week. So I've noticed a lot of New Zealand names on that report. So again, great stuff coming out of New Zealand, and some really good information in there. I'm working my way through it. I haven't read it all, but I'll be certainly integrating some of that. And it's used the intersection of Hamilton there as one of the examples, with a lot of others. So I think there's a lot for us to gain. And there's a lot of fear out there about the idea of raising some of these intersections like this one off in the distance here. You'd have some challenges with the grades and the like, but fundamentally we're going to have some alterations to these to minimise the severity of the crashes to get us better alignment with safe system principles. Okay, really great stuff there, and I think I'll keep moving on. And there's lots and lots of really good things in there. Okay, these major urban freeways or motorways, we talked a little bit about there, how to do the assessment and where you'd sort of draw lines and the like, but generally these sort of align quite well with safe system principles in a lot of senses, in terms of separation of streams of traffic, in terms of having good angles at any intersections, in terms of on-ramps and speed, you know, getting speed similar. And they perform extremely well from a safety perspective for most of their operation. You know, when they're operating free flow, very good in general, and when they're absolutely stuffed, again, pretty good from a death and serious injury perspective, because nobody's going fast enough to bring up that energy. It's as these freeways tend to break down is where they have some trauma troubles, and so the idea of managed motorways and trying to be more attentive to the needs of the motorway and manage speeds before incidents and back of queue and ramp metering and the like, all really, I suppose, to try and lessen the likelihood of crashes, but also sometimes the severity of your managing speeds and the like on the approach to incidents and the like. So a few things there, and certainly, I mean, they can be challenging to work with, but you know, there's a fair bit that we can continue to do. It is moving us more into that ITS style space. And major rural highways, well, we really do now know that these major roads are going to have that continuous barrier system throughout. I'll be bumper bowling of roads, as some people call it. But yes, you should be leaving the road and hitting a barrier system wherever you leave the road in these locations. Certainly any intersections, either grade separated or providing those facilities to lower speed, or left out with acceleration lanes and the like, and then U-turn facilities where you can accelerate up and the like. But thinking about managing those energies, and we're just talking about the infrastructure there, but we should be complementing these with holistic strategies in enforcement, in rest areas, in different enforcement setups and locations and the like. Okay, so I skipped through at the end there on those last couple, and we were getting some really great commentary in. And as I said, with this group, I'm pretty confident the sort of fundamentals of what works and what doesn't in road safety engineering is fairly clear, and it's all about just getting it into that format of a safe system assessment, using the matrix right, categorizing exposure, likelihood, and severity in the right spots, thinking about categorizing any recommendations into primary and supporting. Primary being that, virtually eliminates death and serious injury, even with people being people, and making mistakes or not being quite concentrating on what's going on. So how the infrastructure can assist there. And I suppose as you write up your safe system assessments, I really want you to, when you get to that categorization into primary and supporting, it can be challenging. And I do just remind you, go to the Austroads Safe System Assessment Framework, look on those pages somewhere around page 27 or 28 or the like. Look at the lists of treatments and the categorization of them into primary and supporting. It's going to help you calibrate how you do that, because it's a bit of a tricky thing to do, because you can often say, well, that virtually eliminates, but it may not, and it's easiest to just go to what Austroads has already said, if that was one of the treatments that they had put in there. Okay, doing really well here, and I'm giving an opportunity for any questions.
We've got a question, Ken, looking for your views on U-turn jug handles as they maintain a right turn.
Yeah, it is a really good question, and certainly, so what we're doing there is trying to be able to facilitate that central barrier system for as long and as far as we possibly can, which is where we're going to get our big bang for our buck from that run-off road head-on perspective. And so we do need to then accommodate that U-turn in one way or another. Obviously, the best is going to be that roundabout where everybody lowers to that speed. But the costs and the ability to do that in many locations is challenging. So what are the alternatives in that? Again, when we get into sort of ideas of right turn, U-turn facilities with acceleration in the middle of the road, you've done so much widening that you may as well have built a roundabout. And so we are really often stuck into some jug handle style setups, or utilizing the side road to provide that U-turn facility. Now, I was just talking with Sherry Mason from WSP Opus over in New Zealand, and it sounds like she's doing a study into this at the moment. So I was providing her with some ideas and some things that we've been doing over here. So it might be worth chatting to her. Anybody who's got a specific interest in any of those aspects, I recommend you if you don't have her details, let me know. I'll put you in contact, see what she's up to and studying, and providing a report. I'm probably doing it for NZTA, no doubt, or maybe others, but we might be getting some more guidance on a few of those decisions. We've always had challenges on how far you make people travel before making them U-turn, and it's sort of, we don't have any good guidance on that, certainly in Victoria and New South Wales, and it's sort of just like, it's what you can get away with when you do your landowner discussions and the like. So yeah, it's a fascinating area, and the rollout of these central systems has many of these nuances that we need to work through. But yeah, good question. Good question. Anything else coming through? All right. Oh. Yeah, okay. So somebody there said median acceleration is a bad idea as traffic merges to the blind side. I do absolutely agree with that, and thank you for pointing it out. And as part of my dislike of seagull intersections is that merge from the right. So it's definitely not ideal. Where you do get your obvious advantages are the speed differential or the similar speeds on entry and the angles. But you're right, the merge from the right is never going to be a good idea. So you kind of there trading off, aren't you, in that sense of bad merge but better severity aspects versus very high severity on a right turn against crash, but less likelihood because you've got the good sight lines and ability to make those choices. So bit of case-by-case thinking in there.
We've got Antonio's got his hand up, so I'll just check.
Great.
Yes, thank you. As we are at the end of the course, I'd like to share with you my feedback, as I attended in my career probably 100 courses, and to be honest, that has been the best one in terms of the way it's been delivered. Very effective, practical. No, really, I really appreciate the way. For me, it's been perfect, and so I'd like to share with you my feedback, because I really appreciate both of you, and as well you support us, and the training has been really outstanding.
Thank you, Antonio. That's lovely, lovely to hear. And I suppose Kathy and I had a bit of conversation before this group about the fact that I read through the names and I went, oh, these people know Safe System really well. So I'm a bit worried they're not going to get too much out of this out of this course. But I think that the conversation and the Safe System assessment framework's been really, focusing in on that has been good. And yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed the online platform, and we've tried to certainly make it different to just try to add some spice to it and get you out doing stuff. So appreciate your feedback. And for everybody else, you'll be able to provide your feedback in a online little questionnaire thing, and we'll certainly provide that back to those who are funding this, being Maria and Fabian and the like. So if you think it has been valuable and something that could be rolled out further, please put that in. And especially what I'm interested in is getting to the groups who don't think like this group, who aren't, passionate road safety advocates, and who have some other objectives as their top thing. And I really want to get to those traffic operations people, some of the major project people, and get them at least on the same page and understanding what Safe System is and what it can do. So yeah, really love that feedback, and feel free to send it straight to Maria or Fabian as well, just to really show them that there could be some value in getting this further and wider. And I'd love to get some of you on as guest presenters with some of the Safe System assessments you've been doing and coordinating, and some of the different local features, because there's good experience in the group. So thanks again to everybody, and Antonio for taking advantage to say that person. Is very, very touching. Thank you. Okay, so Kathy, just give us a summary of anything else needing to happen and needing to be done before we close it off.
Thank you, Ken, and thanks, Antonio. So we do have one last quiz, which is in the Module 6 folder. I'll also pop the recording up there if anyone wants to revisit and spend more time looking at Ken's Mo as well. there's just a couple of people that haven't done the module 4 quiz, so thank you again. You've been a very attentive and on the ball group. So if you haven't done module 4 quiz, then jump in and do that. And of course, submit your Safe System Assessment report. I noticed a few more people have submitted theirs most recently. Ken will get to marking those probably next Monday or Tuesday, and then we'll send your certificate out after that. Thank you again for being a very entertaining group. I've very much enjoyed the chat on the side. It's getting worse. So,
with these comments, I'm going to keep it until next time I go to New Zealand, so they can all see it live.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Wonderful to see you, even though it's on a virtual sense. Get those assignments in.
Sorry, just one last thing. Can we get that evaluation report out? You think we can share that with the group? Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I'll send that out and a link to that Austroads webinar on something or another. And see you all next time, and be in touch if you need anything.
Yeah. Thank you very much. See ya.